The cloud. Okay, good morning, you guys. Happy Friday. Thank you so much for hopping on today. You're going to have a fun-filled little chat with me and Michelle this morning. It's a really special treat. This is my blonde real estate badass soul sister, Michelle.
With
And we're gonna
my
have a good
shower
time
wet
this
hair right
morning.
now.
I know.
I'm like, this is as good as it's getting this morning.
Well, and I think we
Man.
have the same glasses.
Oh
Stop.
my gosh, we do. Stop.
Look at this. We did
Looking
not
good,
plan this,
Hallie.
you guys. We did not plan this. It makes us look really smart, so we like it. But anyways, you guys, Michelle, introduce yourself. If people on the call don't know who you are, tell us a little bit more about yourself. What's your relationship with real estate? Tell us a little bit more.
Okay, hi guys. I'm Michelle Harding, originally from Toronto, Canada, but I've been here, gosh, in LA for 20 years. I've been in Long Beach for 18 of those years now, so probably going to do something big on my 20-year anniversary because it's been a long time. Next year will be 10 years in real estate. Actually, 2026 will be my 10-year anniversary. But yeah, that's about it for the real estate part of things. But
Oh, that's awesome. So you've been here for a little while now. Isn't it so funny when you move from a different area? It's like it's still kind of home for you up there, even though you've been here for a while. It's like it's kind
I still call it going home when I go to
of
Toronto. But home at this point, most of my adult life has been here. More of my life has been here than it has been in Canada because I was in New York for 2 years before I came to Los Angeles. So 22 years now in the United States. I'm only 42. So I was not in Canada as long as I've been here. Just
right.
kind of, it's really weird when you put it that way. But
What made you like come down here and get into real estate? And tell us a little bit about your origin story.
so I don't know if my sister's on here, but I hope she's watching because she's in Keller Williams in Canada. She has a very successful team up in Canada, CHK Real Estate Team. And my sister, when I was pivoting from fashion, so I was a fit model before, so I'd try on clothes, design the fit and feeling of the garment, be like, I don't like this sleeve, it's cutting me here. And it was such a random, still like a sales job. I drove around to different production houses, downtown LA and different areas around LA and Irvine and Calabasas. And when I just sort of felt like I was at my ceiling with that position in that industry, I was like, what should I do next? Like, I moved here to be a singer and an actress, and I still songwrite and sing and all that jazz. So I was like, how can I have a full time or part time job that will allow me to work from home? And I was sort of just like brainstorming with my sister, and she's like, why aren't you in real estate? Like, what are you doing? And I'm like, oh God, no, I don't know. Because she's just celebrated 20 years. So she did a big party last year for her 20-year anniversary. And I just didn't think, I was like, I don't know, you look so busy all the time. I'm not really sure that that's for me. But then I started looking into it and realizing like, this is my home office. You guys can see it's just my small little happy space. But like, I'm really, really glad that I get to do most of my work from this office. And it's right here in Long Beach. And my sister was right. I ended up loving it a little bit more than I expected.
You're a natural at it. And I think it's like that personality that you have of just like the nurturing and the care. It's something that just kind of like exudes from you. And you've really made that a part of your business model with your clients, right?
For sure. Oh, first time buyers, like I know a lot of people want to focus on listings and I am more now. We can talk about that later, but in the beginning for sure the first 5 years I would say. Sorry, I need to clean my glasses. They're hot. They're foggy. All right. The first 5 years was definitely a solid focus on first time buyers and I still pride myself on being like you don't own a home, you need to own a home. Obviously we all know those buyers are going to become sellers, so then you start your kind of rotation cycle. Within a couple of years they're selling to upleg or they're having children or whatever's happening in their lives. So I think focusing on buyers those first couple of years and looking around my own friend group who at that time were in their 30s and realizing they were all paying very, very high rents, just kind of working around my own group and being like, you know what, maybe I should try this real estate thing because none of you own your houses. And I've already owned my first house. I bought my first house within a year of moving to LA. So I was 22 when my first home was bought in San Pedro. And then a second home was bought. And then we were working on like flipping at the time. And I was already kind of involved in real estate without being a realtor. So by the time I made that transition to be like a real estate agent, it was easy to help my friends because I was like, I've already owned my home and look how like good it's been for me. I was able to turn this equity into this purchase and you can do it too. And let me show you how. Like just simply breaking it down, you know?
Hmm. How would you say, how would you say someone, coming not from this area, you don't have friends and family, you don't have this like built-in sphere. Like, how did you kind of build that business? Because I mean, I think it's pretty safe to say that most of your business, I've heard you say, comes from kind of like referrals and friends and past clients and people
My
like that,
business
right?
still to this
Yeah.
day, yeah, is sphere and sphere of influence and referral 100%. Um, and oh gosh, how did it start building? So I guess in the music industry, a lot of those creative types, some of them were making good money, even as songwriters or producers, directors, whatever they're doing. And it was interesting showing them, like, well, wait, I'm a creative type too. I've always been self-employed, even when I was in my fashion gig and in the music world. So it was showing people around me, wait, you can prove your income, and this is how we do it. So showing a lot of artists that weren't being paid attention to, if you know what I mean. Like, no one had really talked to them about home ownership before. They just thought it was something that wasn't possible for them. So
Mm.
instead, I'm like breaking it down and like making it simplified. It is possible for you. This is how I did it. And just leading by that example. And then I did, I had my cabin in Big Bear, and that was my Airbnb, like little success story over the last 6 years. We just sold in February, but we had a really, really good run with that. And that opened up an entire different, like, niche market for me, because a lot
Yeah.
of Canadians, we miss our snow. So we go to the mountains. So my first transaction was actually in Big Bear. So everyone knows me as like this mountain girl. And I'm like, I don't even have my property there anymore. And I'm still selling on the hill, which is fine. I love it up there. I want an excuse to visit. But it's just kind of funny that I ended up with this niche market up there in the mountains as well. So I have Southern California, more like Orange County and Long Beach based. And then I have Arrowhead and Big Bear as well.
I think it's just brilliant how you took something, just hearing what you just said. You didn't fight the process. You took what was already in your world, what you were already comfortable with, or people that you were comfortable with, and you found out how to turn that into your business. So whether that was first-time home buyers, whether that was the cabin and big,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I could comfortably
Because
say
they kind of follow your lead too. They're like, wait, you're the cabin in Big Bear. How does that work? How is it making money? Like, what's going on with that? And then they had a lot of Airbnb questions. And even if it didn't end up being Big Bear, a lot of those first time buyers then became investor buyers that were like, I've always wanted a condo in Palm Springs, or let's look at 29 Palms or San Diego. And all of a sudden it opened up this Airbnb sort of world that now I'm sort of a pro at. I'm like, okay, we're going to look at AirDNA. We're going to show you stats. This is how much it could make. So leading by example again, like I what's that saying? Like, I drink the Kool-Aid. You know what I mean? Like, I'm doing it first. Like, I'm your little guinea pig. So watch me. I'm gonna do it. Watch, it worked. And then they're like safe and feeling good to go proceed and try those risks themselves.
but you showed that part of yourself. And that's what I think
Yeah.
probably a lot of people here on the call that are maybe hesitant to share their journey, maybe because it's not where they want it to be, or maybe, having some obstacles and opportunities. But you've always been really open. If you guys haven't or don't already, please go on Instagram and follow Michelle on Instagram, because she is very open, great on social media. And we'll talk about that in just a second. But you share that story. When you got your home in Big Bear, it was like, and then you're going through the Airbnb, I felt like I was there with you. It was like I would
I'm
hear and
so
go through
bummed. I
that
took down
process.
the highlight. Took down, like, excuse me, that little highlight reel recently, and I'm like, why did I do that? I should have left it up, because I guess when I sold, I was like a little bit sad. I was like, oh, but it was time. We want to move on to do some other things. So I took the highlight reel down, but me and my husband DIY'd the whole thing ourselves. Like, we did as much as we could with our own two hands before we reached out and started making those local connections with contractors and stuff for the projects that we just couldn't do. But for them, I'd say we did 85% of it ourselves, which
Wow.
felt really good. It makes it feel, I don't know, that sweat equity really feels good when people are renting it out and then they're giving you that 5-star review and you're reading it. Like, those, I remember that feeling when those first couple of reviews came in. I was like, this feels so good, because it's like our hard work and people are loving our space.
Mhm.
So I think people saw me having a lot of fun with that. And so my sphere was able to then activate and be like, well, they got a cabin. I want to get a cabin. And then it was sort of like this domino effect with that. So that's exciting.
And it's so relatable, because not many people with their first investment can drop 50, 60, 70, 100K on renovating their property, right? So a lot of people do choose the DIY route, and showing
Yeah.
that it can be done, you can still be
Like, what can
profitable.
be done and what should
Yeah,
not be done by yourself. Like, we
yeah,
didn't remodel any
yeah,
bathrooms or anything crazy. It was like flooring, carpet ripping out, painting, and even just design ideas, like the
totally.
simple stuff.
Yeah. So if you guys have any Big Bear questions too, make sure you always go to Michelle. If you guys got listings or buyers or people looking up there, she's a great resource for that. But let's talk a little bit more about the short-term rentals. So how did you,
Yeah.
like, obviously being someone who started in short-term rentals herself and the Big Bear and vacation areas, what is it that you can give advice or tools or things like that that you're using to help advise those clients that are looking to make the short-term rental investments?
Um, sorry, my glasses will not stop fogging up. I think we're just gonna lose them. I think the first step, like I was gonna say, like I was just thinking about this. A lot of those buyers that I thought would be like this would be their second investment or their second home, some of them can't afford LA and they actually bought in the mountains first or in those more affordable,
Mm.
29 Palms outside of LA regions. Like a lot of people after COVID, when they were leaving the state, I was like over here preaching like on my Instagram every day. I'm like, you don't have to leave California to find affordability. Like I know people that moved to Murrieta and their house, like they rented it out because people in Temecula, you can't Airbnb in Temecula, but they were renting their house out during the holidays and then they lived there for the rest of the year. So we were finding creative ways to get them into a property, whether it was their full-time residence or not, especially up in Big Bear and Arrowhead. That worked really well because the property values were really low at the time. But the first step, I think, is finding out how much you need to put down. Because I think even for investment properties, a lot of these buyers are still misinformed. They think, oh, it's 60%. I'm not going to live there. I'm like, it's 10. You're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. So just like reiterating that information that you can do 10% and this is how it works or whatever those little details are. And then if they're not good at like home staging or designing, then bring somebody in who is.
Mm.
Don't try and wear so many hats that you get overwhelmed.
Mm.
So I actually have like a lease that went live in the middle of the night last night. And I don't really do leasing for like long-term tenants. I'm so familiar with the short-term tenant thing and Airbnb that this was like different. And I sent you a couple questions yesterday, got through it. It's actually the same process as listing. So I was less overwhelmed once I actually dove in. But we talked about this, me and my client, because they had to move out of state for a relocation for her husband's job. And I said, listen, if in 4 weeks we can't get a renter, I might rent the house from you and Airbnb it. You're 10 minutes from Disney. I looked at AirDNA and these houses are making $13,000 to $25,000 a month. Look at them. A lot of them were condos, like they just had a lot of bedrooms, but her house has that opportunity. Like there's so many creative ways you can go about things. Like I'm not going to let your house sit there for $5,000 a month and not get leased. Like
Mm.
let's do something else. So it really depends on the situation. Like that one would be a lot because it'd be the first time I'm taking over a lease, and then it's called rent arbitrage, I believe. So I would be taking over the lease. I would pay them their minimum that they wanted a month, 5 grand a month, and then the rest can go to whoever's hosting, or you come up with some kind of a split with the owner or whatever that arrangement is. So that one's a little bit more complicated, but yeah, usually it's just the down payment that trips people up. They don't realize they can just get in quite easily.
AirDNA is a great resource. I know you've said that twice.
Yeah.
Again, you guys are helping short-term rentals. AirDNA is kind of the, universally accepted
It's like
short-term
Redfin.
rental.
It's like the Redfin realtor of, yeah,
It's a good way to get comps and to get an
short-term
idea.
rentals.
And the way that you just your business acumen and investments and growing your own personal wealth, the way you just thought, okay, well, hang on a second. If this is really that good of an investment, if this is really that good of a deal, why isn't this something that maybe I might consider myself? And I think a lot of agents don't think about that when you go on a listing appointment and you're starting to grow your personal wealth and you're starting to build that financing, always put it through
Mm-hmm.
your eyes first, right? A lot of listings
Yeah.
I know will go
Like,
on a
what would I do if I owned this home? I was like,
yeah.
I'd be Airbnb-ing this so quickly. Like, I would not want a tenant in here. I actually think it's more wear and tear to the property. Um, and then you get to choose, like, let's say you come home to visit family for a couple weeks, you can stay in your own house. You sort of get the best of both worlds of still being able to use the property and then short-term rental it. I mean, it can be a win in the right situation.
Yeah, that's super
Yeah.
smart and a great way to look at it. I know that real estate can't be easy, and sometimes we have tough days and sometimes we have easier days. What are some of the things that you do to help stay motivated and keep going and when things get challenging, what are some of the things that you do?
Well, this week was a particularly rough one. And I downloaded the Calm app because I was a little disappointed in myself earlier in the week for just kind of like losing it. And I didn't lose it with the other agent and I didn't lose it with my client. I was just losing it, stirring about a decision that was made that was kind of turning things, like it was almost looking like the deal might cancel. And I know that, like, one thing, I coached with Robin Eduardo like 8 years ago when I was first with the office. And one thing he used to always say that I love and I still use to this day is the buyers want to buy and the sellers want to sell. And you and the agent obviously want the same thing. You have to work as a team. And I felt like I was really saying that over and over again within this transaction. Like, we are on the same side. I don't know why the anxiety, and every time, yeah, it was just a lot. So I had to like circle back with myself and be like, stop letting it get to you so much. Bring it back. It's your listing. I had to definitely stop being so nice. Sometimes on the listing side, I'm so used to being a buyer's agent the first couple of years that, like, God forbid you give me a notice to perform. Like, I'm always on time. You're not going to need to do that with me. And I don't think I've ever even gotten one. So nor have I ever delivered one. Well, it was time. So there was things like that where I was like, stop being so nice. It's okay to be professional. And yes, it feels stressful, but my client was also on board. He's like, do what you got to do. Like, you've been kind and patient enough. This is business. So sort of just waking myself up to be like, don't take the shit. Sorry for lack of a better word.
And you handle that in such a good way that then you started checking in with your mental health, right? And I think
Yeah,
that's
I was like, I need a calm app, like, because I was definitely getting like, woo. I was letting myself get really upset.
and so important to say, okay, great, this is not something that we can control, right? There's only so much we can control, and a part of that control is
Yeah.
controlling our thoughts, our
Yep.
patterns, the things that we do, and that you had the forethought to say, oh, hey, I'm going to download the Calm app and start, being more mindful at this time to kind of maybe relax or meditate.
Yeah, just like to weed through it a little bit with a little bit more grace. And as soon as I did, like, they're basically like, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Calm app, if anyone on the call is, but we actually get it free through our insurance. And I know some people do, some people don't. So I have it free, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. Didn't even know that until the other day. So they're like in the moment meditations without you having to sit on a cliff and be like, like, you can do it within the app. You're not saying stuff out loud, but they're saying stuff to you. You can pick whatever you want. There's celebrities on there if you like a certain voice to just soothe the soul, or certain nature sounds. There's a lot within that app that I found really calm. And I literally did 5 minutes. And then I was like, you know what? The paperwork is there to provide me the control to get this back on track. Notice to perform. Extension of
Yes.
escrow denied. I will cancel you. Sorry, but this is getting crazy. And now I have to put on the boss pants. And you know what?
Uh, yeah, and I think that's so relatable, to many of us who've been through a difficult transaction, and sometimes it just feels like it can be the end of the world, or sometimes
Yeah, and
even
it's not. It's like, oh my gosh, just relax. I'm not in surgery here.
yeah, yeah. And our clients are paying us. Our clients are building that relationship with us to trust us to help get through these times. It doesn't all have to be
Right.
rainbows and sunshine.
And
It's
I'm
just
trying to be a good filter sometimes, but I will say, like, I shield a lot from my clients. It's not their business what's going on between me and the other agent, whether it's getting, a little tense or not. But yesterday we did have a good chat, because he was even like, it's time, like, it's okay to play a little bit rough here, because I'm losing my patience as well. Not with you, but like with what's happening over there. And I was like, no, you're right. So I did share a little bit more than I'm used to, and then that was okay too. So there's been a lot of learning lessons along the way this week, for
I love
sure.
that. We learn. That's what I was texting you yesterday. Every situation like this is something that we can learn from, right? It's something that
Yeah.
we can test our skill, test our focus, learn a new process, learn to set boundaries, whatever that is. Every opportunity is a learning
And
process.
take a break. Like, I'm good at going on vacation and taking breaks when I need them, but when you're in the middle of a transaction and it's like those last couple days before closing, and things can get sticky and delays are happening and the underwriters requesting crazy stuff, take a break. I like literally slam my laptop shut, and I'm like, it's not like with these sticks I've got back here, it's not like I can just go to the gym and like take it out in kickboxing or hot yoga or aerial like I'm used to. So I found myself like kind of abnormally stirring about things during this post surgery situation that I'm in. Take a break. I still went on my little knee scooter, and I went out to my driveway and did a couple circles. I put my dogs outside, threw the ball a couple times, go make myself a tea. And by the time you come back, you're like, okay, like we're fine.
I love that. I love your dogs too. They're so cute.
My
So let's
babies.
talk a little bit about clients and the market. Where do you see, what are the conversations right now you're having with your clients? Where do you kind of see the opportunity in the next 6 months? Anything special you're doing over the holiday season
Yeah.
for clients?
So I'd say the summer for myself and my business was a little bit slow. Luckily, before I had this foot surgery, I had my listings prepped. So the signs were up, the pictures were done, open houses were done, like everything looked good. I had my business cards on site, like all of that. And then because they're vacant, they were kind of self-contained. So I was able to just allow showings in with the agents and not have to be there. But it still felt kind of still because I'm so used to being out so much. So this last month of really being home and getting those two properties into escrow, which is something I definitely manifested before surgery. I was like, you know what? If I can get both of these into escrow while I have my foot in the air, that timing would just be so perfect. Like no one's rushing me. One of them had just listed, but I'm like, no, 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 we're gonna do this, and it felt really good to get that actually into reality and get them both going. So um, I feel like it's picked up since the summer felt slow for me. I got a lot more calls even during escrow of people like offering backup offers and things like that, especially for the mountain regions. That's not common. It's been quite slow up there. And then even back here in LA, I do have quite a lot of buyers lined up in my pipeline. So I think that interest rate softening definitely helped bring people back to the market, and everybody that was sort of waiting and waiting, they're sort of at the point now where they're like, what am I waiting for? So I did
Mhm.
a little graph the other day and I sent it to a couple of my little snails, my little waiters. And I was like, listen, guys, in a year from now, I predict that your property, the one that you're looking at, that condo that you're skipping out on, or that home that you're not going to buy, in a year, it could be worth this. So let's not focus on the interest rate. Let's focus on getting you in a property today. So it's not 11% higher next year, because that we can refinance you if the interest rates come down. We all know that speech, but I feel like I am saying that speech almost daily because it's true. We have seen property values come up since last year, especially in LA.
Mhm.
So stop waiting. Like that's been my main thing. Like let's get people into action.
I think that's a really good and unique approach because so many people say, "Hey, it's the interest rates. Don't wait, don't wait." But the way that you just worded that in the sense of don't wait because you're going to miss out on equity in the next year, right? Not only
Yeah,
do we
exactly.
not know
Like
what interest rates are going to
let's
be.
look at what you're going to gain.
Yeah, yeah. Because
Or
we
what
all
your mortgage payment, this is a good
yes.
one too. What does your mortgage payment look like at 11% higher of that purchase price? What does your payment look like today if we get you in the home for this price? Oh, like they don't think of it like that. Like literally, what does your monthly cost look like? What's the cost of waiting? And I have a couple lenders that I work with that have done those graphs for me, and those have been really helpful.
Yeah, that's super smart. And again, trying to do something that's a little bit out of the norm when everyone's talking about interest rates. Now you're talking about building equity, which is wealth equity, right? And then so
Yeah,
that's pain is a motivator, but so is also gain. Gain can also be just as good as
right.
a motivator, right? And
Yeah,
and
let's focus on what you're going to gain, not what you're losing with the interest rate. Like, you just can't. And also, we all are buying down the interest rate and still doing creative things to sort of make the first year or two a little bit more comfortable on that monthly payment. So, little tricks.
yeah, little tricks. I think that's important. Well, we just have a couple minutes left. What else do you have? Anything else you'd like to share with the group? Things that you're thinking about
Yeah.
now? Okay, please do.
One thing I want to talk about,
Good.
the new rules. I was so scared of the new rules. I love them. So, I'm just going to say that out loud. I think that there is a lot of strategy to be used during this time. At first, I was scared because I do work on the buyer side quite a bit, but all the offers I'm getting on my listings, everybody's asking for a buyer's agent comp. We haven't said no once when they write a strong enough offer. So I love this negotiating power because I feel like it's going to be easier to get the list agreement signed. Hey, seller, you've probably heard the news. It was 6%. I don't know who was fixing commissions. We never did that. I never did that, but I could sell for 5. That used to look like a 50-50 split, but now I can list your house for 3 or 3.5, depending where it is. Like for me going up the hill, there might be a little bit more of a charge there for to get that, because a lot of my investment homes up there are selling through my Instagram. They're coming from my sphere. So I'm representing the seller, but the buyer is coming from me. So I'm able to negotiate like a little bit higher on the list side, but they're happy to sign a 3 or 3.5% list agreement because they're not dealing with 5s and 6s anymore. You know what I'm saying?
And again, it's all about that perspective of that conversation. It's like we have been dealt those cards, right? We have
Yeah,
to follow the rules
let's
now.
make them work.
And so let's make them work and then let's find that. And the way you just said that is genius, that maybe now you're even getting more commission on the listing side because it's something that is easier to articulate the value, particularly if it's something that's a little bit farther away, right? Like
Yeah,
say
we'll
maybe
deal
you're
with the buyer when
yeah.
they get here, and if they, yeah, it's not going to be an even split anymore. And if the buyer has negotiated 2.5% with that buyer's agent, well, maybe we can split it. Like, I just feel like there's so many creative ways to make it happen. But the first call from the agents are pretty funny, where they're like, "How much is your seller paying?" I was like, "I have no idea. I haven't seen an offer from you. My seller's not paying anything according to the new rules. What are you talking about? Do you have a buyer's like agreement that you'd like to send me? Like, what is your buyer paying?" So it's been sort of fun to like flip it on its lid. Like, we don't have to have those conversations anymore. Um, yeah,
I
I
love
like
that.
it.
Thank you, Michelle. This is amazing. You have such good energy always, even though you have your crutches and you're waddling
Oh,
around.
I can't
Um,
wait to be able to walk.
you guys, another good plug. Please go follow Michelle on Instagram if you have any questions about condos and Big Bear and short-term rentals. Michelle's always been a really good resource and someone to look out to. Again, a great example of building lead generation through Instagram. Thank you, Michelle, for joining me. This was awesome. I
So much for
appreciate it.
having me.
You
This was
guys
fun.
have
Sorry it was
such
a couple minutes late, but everyone have a good weekend.
you're good. Have such a good Friday, everyone. Make it productive. Go out, find an open house, go on a listing appointment, do whatever it is you need to do some business this weekend because before you know it, the holiday season is going to be here. So it's time now to push those pipelines because you're going to want them. You're going to want them to buy those gifts. You're going to want them to enjoy the time with your family and to take those vacations. So thank you. We're here for you to help support you and have a good rest of your weekend, everyone.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you.
Bye.
Thank you. Have a good weekend.
Thank you, Hallie. Thank you, Michelle.
Welcome.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.